Hello, the focus of our discussion for this week is outlining. By now, I have had an opportunity to meet with all of you via Canvas inbox and or Flipgrid. If you are behind, please try to catch up this week. The course can be a little overwhelming when you have a great deal to do to complete the course. Again, welcome to SPC 2608. I am Professor Eugene King. With discussions, I want you to note that I don't lecture. I simply remind you what you need to focus on for the week. That is why it is important that you go over the information resources, which include the e-text reading, the lecture slides, and the related videos before starting the discussion. You can access all these items on the Canvas page for your chapter reading. By now you must have read and heard me say this quote: "Public speaking is not just talking, it is an art that requires the strategic process of organization and preparation." This quote is instrumental in helping you to prepare each speech accordingly. I want you to think about it every time you have to start a presentation or start preparing for a presentation. This is why we start the organization process with an outline. In Chapter 4, you read the importance of effective listening. At the end of the chapter, the author introduced an important factor of effective listening. He notes that you must write for the ear. This is an important statement. With this discussion, we will see what it means to write for the ear. Although there are many types of outlines, in this course you will follow the format I provide you with. Again, make sure that you go over the information resources in Canvas. When you're preparing an outline, I want you to note that, again, although there are different ways that you can prepare an outline, I do want you to follow the format that I have prepared for you in Canvas. And so make sure that you follow the elements that go into an outline. If you have not reviewed the information resources and handouts, please do so before participating in the discussion. To organize your speech, or any speech, and specifically our outline, you must know some terminology. First, you must know the divisions of an outline. They are introduction, body, and conclusion. In addition, you also need to be familiar with the motto of public speaking, which is tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you told them. So you need to know the divisions, and you need to know the motto. So we tell them what we're going to tell them in the introduction. We tell them in the body, we provide the details, and we tell them what we told them in the conclusion. This is the formula for public speaking. With this terminology comes the need to understand the types of outlining within which we must develop these divisions. There are several types of outlines, but we will focus on two: the keyword outline and the complete sentence outline. The keyword outline is for you. You will not be allowed to deliver your presentation with 8x11 paper. You must use note cards. Because you are not allowed to read to your audience, you must prepare note cards with keywords. The formal sentence outline is to help you organize your thoughts as you write for the ear, but it is also for me. I will be grading your outline. Therefore, it must be formal. This means each label and symbol in the outline must be accompanied by a complete sentence. As you can see in this slide, the divisions in an outline are made up of functions and parts. The functions of the introduction can be broken up into 4 parts, and they are the attention grabber, the relevant statement for the audience, credibility, and the thesis and preview of main points. The body is made up of main points, which are represented by capital Roman numerals, sub-points, which are represented by capital letter alphabet, and sub-points, which are represented by lowercase and numbers. And the conclusion has 2 parts, which include restating the thesis and the main points, and then closing the speech with a memorable ending. As you can see in this slide, the breakdown of the symbols and labels in the outline are demonstrated in this image from your textbook in Chapter 8. You also see the structure, which includes only specific labels and symbols, which don't include bullets or hyphens, but only letters and numbers. Please note that although your textbook demonstrates how you prepare the introduction and conclusion in paragraph format, in my class, I prefer that you prepare the introduction and conclusion in outline format. You will be graded accordingly. When we discuss outlining, we must also include a discussion about the principles of outlining. These principles are important in helping us structure our outline. These principles are subordination, division, and parallelism. Take a moment to read each of these divisions. First, you have the principle of subordination. Read the principle of division. And take a look at the principle of parallelism. The principle of subordination, which is represented by the green column, basically demonstrates the structure. However, in outlining, the main points are more general. One sentence. The subpoints are more specific, also one sentence. And the subpoints are very detailed and even more specific. They can be more than one sentence, but no more than two sentences. Please note that the main points are also more important and more general, and as we indent, the information is considered less important, not because the information itself is insignificant, but because we want our audience to remember the main points. That's why we keep repeating them when we tell them what we want to tell them in the introduction, when we provide the details and tell them in the body, and when we tell them what we told them in the conclusion. This formula is all about the main points. Also, as we indent, the information becomes more detailed. The principle of division states that if a point is to be explained or divided, it must have at least two explanations or subpoints. If you look at the sample outline, you see that main point 1 must be explained. Therefore, we have an A as one explanation and B as another. This makes two explanations. If you as a speaker decide to develop your subpoints, you must also follow the rule of division. That means you must have a 1 and a 2. Please look at the image of the sample outline. The principle of parallelism has to do with sentence structure. Again, a formal sentence outline means every symbol and label in the outline is accompanied by a complete sentence. The main points, however, must, in a way, call attention back to the thesis. In this example, the thesis is, there are 4 steps to meditate. Please find the information I'm referring to. This means each of the 4 main points must elaborate on one of those specific points. You see 2 of those main points in the sample outline. The main points are a title of the details that will be provided by the subpoints and the sub-subpoints. The main point, however, must be one and only one complete sentence, just as the subpoints must also be one and only one sentence. The sub-subpoints, on the other hand, can be 1 or 2 and no more than 2 sentences. Why? Because 3 sentences is a paragraph, and we are not writing an essay of our speech. We are outlining. Next, let's look at the purposes. The purposes are essential in keeping the speaker, you, focused. As a speaker, you must identify where you are going with your speech, and you must identify what the audience will get out of the speech. This is the general and the specific purpose, respectively. The general purpose is the goal the speaker wants to accomplish as it relates to the speech. The specific purpose, on the other hand, is the goal the speaker wants to accomplish as it relates to the audience. The general purpose can either be to inform, to persuade, or to entertain. When you prepare it on your topic map or outline, make sure you have a complete thought. For example, to inform my audience how to bake a cake. When discussing the general purpose, I like to refer to it as the destination of the speech. This is because as a speaker, you are taking your audience on a journey. You are taking them on a trip, and the destination is going to either be to inform, to persuade, or to entertain. You can't be in 2 places at once, so you always have just one general purpose. The specific purpose is what your audience will get out of the speech. Once you make it to the destination, the general purpose, they will have education. In my class, the specific purpose is worded one way if it is informative and another way if it is persuasive. Please take a moment to read the way you will word it in my class for informative presentations and the way you will word it for persuasive presentations. When putting your specific purpose together, you should also be aware of the types of informative speeches. There are 4. They are define, describe, explain, and demonstrate. I usually separate it so that it's the 3 Ds and an E. So define, describe, demonstrate, and explanatory. However, your textbook explains that descriptive and explanatory are similar. One of these words will be included in your specific purpose based on the type of informative speech you are giving. So, for example, if I am giving an explanatory speech about the lifespan of dolphins, my specific purpose will be, at the end of my presentation, my audience will be able to explain the lifespan of dolphins. Please review the lecture slides for more details about informative and persuasive speeches and the specific purposes. In addition to the purpose, we also have the main idea of the speech. I encourage you to go over the handouts on thesis statements and central ideas for more information and practice if you need it. Nevertheless, the main idea is the driving force of the speech. I refer to it as transportation because this is how you, the speaker, are going to take your audience to the destination so that they have education. Notice the difference between the thesis and the central idea. So as you see in this slide, the thesis statement begs a question, whereas the central idea is complete. Next, let's review connectives. Have you ever written a paper or an essay and your teacher wrote in big red letters for you to connect your ideas because your essay is all over the place? What you need are connectives. Connectives connect ideas. They are found after the introduction, between main points, and before the conclusion. The three we will focus on are internal previews, signposts, and transitions. Please review on Canvas by way of the information resources and the handouts. I will not go into too much detail here. The internal preview is usually found at the end of the introduction in Part 4. It is when you introduce your speech to the audience and appears again at the end of Part 4 of the introduction. This is why you never start your presentation by saying, "Hello, my name is blank, and I'm going to talk about blank." That is because in Part 4 of your introduction, that's where you take care of that statement, and you don't want to preface your introduction, which is an introduction before an introduction. As you see here in this slide, notice the placement and the points that are being previewed. A signpost can be after the introduction, between main points, or before the conclusion. As a speaker, you decide if you want a signpost or a transition. A signpost is like the big green screen or the big green sign on the highway that lets the driver know where they are and how many more miles to where they are going. Yes, your audience needs a signpost too. Sometimes as audience members, we want to know how much more longer till the end. As you see in this slide, it is used in the beginning. So remember, a signpost has 2 main characteristics. And those two characteristics are that it must have an is word or words, and it must also have an is going word or words. So in the previous slide, we saw that the is word is to begin. The is words are to begin, and the is going word is environment. So this is the signpost. Let's take a look at the transition. A transition, on the other hand, is a statement that tells the audience where the speaker was and where the speaker is going. For example, environment is the first step. Let's move on to position, which is the second step. Transitions like signposts can be after the introduction, between main points, and before the conclusion. However, unlike the signpost, transitions go back before they go forward. Signposts only point forward, and transitions close the previous point and introduce the next point. Take a moment to review this slide and this slide. And so keep in mind that the transition also has two important characteristics, and that is the past tense, where the speaker was or what he or she spoke about, and the future tense, what the speaker is going to talk about. Now, this is just a general guide. It can be very possible that your transition does not look like this, but keep in mind that the transition is a statement that lets the speaker close his or her previous idea and introduce the next. So now let's discuss the main points. Please remember that main points are represented by capital Roman numerals. They direct us back to the thesis, so they are only one sentence, and you can only have 2 to 5 main points. But when we talk about main points, we also need to discuss organizational patterns or organizational styles. So finally, the last element in an outline is the organizational patterns. These patterns or styles, as some textbooks explain, are how you organize your main points. Please read the text in the handouts for additional information. So, all of the information about outlining is necessary for the informative speech that you will have to prepare. Note the functions and goals of an informative speech as you choose your topic. Keep in mind that if your audience already knows how to do it or about it, it is not informative, unless you're giving your audience new information. Informative means to increase knowledge and understanding. So if you are planning on teaching your audience how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, ask yourself, are you going to teach them something that they don't already know? Is there something new about making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that you need to introduce to your audience? Also, keep in mind that your audience members must be age 15 and older. You also want to keep in mind that your classmates and your instructor are your audience members for the speech too. You will upload your speech to Canvas or Flipgrid so that we all can have an opportunity to watch it and encourage you. Keep in mind all of these things as you prepare for your presentation. Make sure you understand the different types of informative presentations, and you will do well in this course and in your first. And remember, public speaking is not just talking. It is an art that involves a strategic process of organization and preparation. So, get started.